I've played many a slop MMO over the years. Some I definitely should have made a video on when they came out, but I just found myself uncompelled to keep playing after a certain point. The through line between all of them was the egregious amount of pay to win, stacked on top of layers of upgrade systems you have to engage with basically daily to keep yourself endgame viable. Where Winds Meet uniquely seems to have a lot of these progression and upgrade systems without them being linked to the cash shop, and I'm interested in playing the game a lot longer because of that. Hello, and welcome to Yapping About MMOs, a series where I play an MMO for a while and give my thoughts about it, with the goal of giving you enough information to support whether I think the game is worth playing or not. This isn't a full review, as MMOs tend to open up a lot more once you've reached max level or finished the campaign. However, getting to that point can take a lot of time, and I think I play the games for too long when writing these videos to call them first impressions. So, this style of video is my happy medium. With that intro out of the way, let's talk Where Winds Meet. Where Winds Meet is a free-to-play MMO-Lite developed by Everstone Studio and published by NetEase. This is Everstone's first game, and was released in China in 2024. Then, on November 14th, 2025, the game saw its global release. The global release is a few updates behind the Chinese version, meaning some criticisms I have here with the game may have already been addressed, but we're not on that update yet. So, take some of them with a grain of salt. Winds is set in a fictitious 10th century China, and draws heavy inspiration from wuxia, a type of Chinese fiction centered around the adventures of martial artists. They go through the typical hero's journey, seeking adventure, experiencing tragedy, and eventually getting stronger from their personal experiences. This game follows that structure, and from what I've experienced so far, the story's pretty good. The greater narrative being told is pretty interesting, but I think it gets dragged down by a bad localization. Characters will sometimes speak over each other due to mismatched cutscene timing, there are some lines that are left untranslated for some reason, some lines come off incredibly flat, and sometimes outtakes are just left in-game.
Oh! You got it. One more time.
What exactly is the
All the swordsmen in the storybooks go on treasure hunts.
Every year.
Could Aunt Han know of a hidden treasure and make it the prize at the first jar banquet?
If anyone here remembers Sword of Legends Online when it came to the West, think of a better iteration of that localization. While it does suck that the voice acting was subpar, it didn't take away enough of my gameplay enjoyment for me to stop playing. The game is really fun to play. It uses an action combat system with options to use traditional tab target controls or action cam controls. I played around with tab targeting initially, but quickly felt it was the worst control option. Action cam still has a lock-on button, and I used it in a majority of combat, but the camera angle, the need to manually time basic attacks, and the need to actively use 3 different defensive buttons made the action cam controls feel more intuitive than tab targeting. My only issue with the gameplay is the movement. It feels really stiff and clunky to move around the world. Most of the game is set in open spaces, so you won't notice it until you have to move around tight spaces or start platforming. At least there isn't a lot of it that I've seen so far, but man, it feels really awkward to move around in tight spaces. Instead of there being strict classes, you equip a weapon that has a set of abilities attached to it, somewhat similar to New World. You can equip up to 2 weapons at once and swap between them at will, and eventually you'll unlock an ability that switches your weapon with an attack. The enemies have their own stamina bar that you deplete either by attacking or parrying their attacks. Once it empties, they enter a vulnerable state and you could trigger a special attack unique to each weapon. It was really easy to find a rhythm in combat. All of the moves smoothly flowed into each other and there was very little animation lock. Since the parry can interrupt almost all of your moves, I was able to perform small combos, parry, keep going, then parry some more. Then, when the boss was vulnerable or stopped attacking, I was able to pull off my longer, more complex combos. And if there was ever an emergency situation, I was always 1 button away from safety. That is, if I could time it right. I have to also give praise to the combat's feedback and visuals. Attacks from both players and bosses are flashy, but not exploding in particle effects, so it makes situations easy to read. Then, the sound of landing strikes is so good with just the right amount of punch to the audio. Landing parries also plays this sick-ass shoot sound that feels even cooler when you land multiple at once. I was a little disappointed finding out there were no classes, but it was quickly washed away when I found out how unique the weapons were. I haven't had a chance to use a lot of them, and I'll talk about that later, but from what I've seen, each weapon feels truly unique, covering the different Holy Trinity roles of tank, healer, and melee and ranged DPS. There was a lot of care and flair put into them, from the move pool to their animations to the multiple different finishers you could do on grunt enemies. There's a lot of cool shit going on. The combat's deeply engaging, and some of the best I've played in an MMO. It's easy to learn with enemies at just the right difficulty to challenge you without feeling bullshit. The rank and file enemies can crowd you, but I haven't been pitted against an overwhelmingly large amount of mobs, and the fights are easy to control in your favor. The bosses I fought so far were a lot of fun too. They were visually impressive with sick designs and cool arenas, and they were also threatening. They hit hard enough to ensure I needed to pay attention, learn their patterns, and parry to succeed. I wasn't getting one-shot by their attacks or anything like that, so I always had a fighting chance, even if I made mistakes. I know there are multiple difficulty options, but the devs really nailed the recommended difficulty for providing just the right amount of challenge. The world itself feels lovingly crafted, with tons of stuff to find. There's mini dungeons, puzzle rooms, collectibles, mini games, and side quests. There are a lot of side quests that are just side stories that give materials or currency as rewards, but there's also a large amount that give your character mystic arts, a separate set of abilities that you can use in combat or to solve puzzles. These side quests are also how you unlock the use of other weapons. What I find cool is how weapons can have vastly different missions to unlock them. For example, unlocking the rope dart required me to level up a disguise vendor so I can make a disguise of one of the martial artists in the area, to sneak into their facility and learn the rope dart technique. On the other hand, unlocking the fan weapon had me going on a stealth mission to get to the perfect spot to spy on the martial artist and learn their techniques by watching. I could see where these types of side quests, especially for weapon unlocks, can be annoying, but I've been having a lot of fun with them. The variety keeps me guessing and surprised at what objectives it throws at me next, and a lot of them are features that are encountered in other parts of the game. My only gripes with the side quests is that a majority of them can only be done solo. Yeah, about that. Multiplayer is handled a bit weird in this game. From what I understand, there's 3 ways to play: solo mode, online co-op mode, and online mode. Solo mode, as the name implies, puts you in your own instance of the world where it scales to around your level. At certain level gates in solo mode, you're barred from leveling up more until you do an isolated combat challenge. Completing that will raise your solo mode level and give your access to XP gain back until the next level gate. Online co-op puts you and your party in your own world instance that scales off the host solo mode level, and online mode puts you in the world with other players in online mode. I think this system is interesting because it gives options for different types of people to engage with the game. The solo player can quest and mob without having to worry about others messing with them or their gameplay, and the multiplayer enjoyer still has the ability to be out in the world with random people. My only issue is there are so many quests that are solo mode only, and of those, a lot are side quests that unlock mystic arts and weapon sets, so I feel disincentivized to play in online mode. Thankfully, there's a lot in the multiplayer aspect that makes up for it. Whether you're a solo player or an online mode player, the community is always intertwined with your gameplay. Signposts are all over the map, similar to Dark Souls, containing messages for other players, whether they're useful tips or time wasters. The same for assist signposts, where you can bring another player or an NPC into your world to help you with the boss. You can, through various methods, contract permanent debuffs that can only be cleansed by a healer. You can visit an NPC healer, or you can contract an actual player that's involved in that discipline to cleanse you. And the game streamlines this process by giving you an easy menu to interact with, even giving you stats related to them, like the amount of times they healed someone or how many upvotes they got. If you go around breaking objects and harassing people in cities, you'll become wanted. And if you get caught, you'll be thrown in jail for an amount of real-world time scaling with the severity of your crimes. Now, you can wait out this timer, or reduce it by doing manual labor, or other players could come to your rescue and break you out of jail. Most of the minigames here can be played with other people too, either by bringing someone in from the immediate area or queuing into matchmaking for it. There's a ton of variety here too, from rhythm games to card games to darts. There's more that I'm sure I'm missing here, but all of these neat, community-driven activities are great socialization tools that aren't intrusive with the rest of the game, and add another layer of engagement with other players besides just questing. I'm glad to see more effort was put into making the game a social experience, and can't wait to discover what else there is to offer. Going beyond mini-games, story bosses can be rematched with a team of people, and at certain levels you unlock different sword trials, a boss encounter intended to be fought with a team of people. I've only really dipped my toes into them, but I think they're fun so far. The encounters in sword trials seem to be more MMO-like, with more arena-sweeping attacks and wipe mechanics over the more Souls-like experience of the story bosses. The difficulty of the fights made them challenging, but I didn't have to perform perfectly to succeed. I think a lot of Eastern MMOs tend to fall into that design trap, and to be fair, I'm only still leveling, so there's a chance the encounters turn into that in the late game. I'm not a fan of that design philosophy though, especially if it's paired with having a very short amount of time to execute those mechanics. So, I hope the future encounters keep around this level of difficulty while making the mechanics themselves more complex. The story boss rematches are fun to do as a team, but I don't think they're balanced around that. The very calculated and intimate experience of the story bosses are completely thrown off when there's 3 other people wailing on them. I don't mind it, because you're still able to do these solo, and the sword trials already scratch that multiplayer boss encounter itch. I do wish there was more of a dungeon experience here though. From what I've seen so far, there aren't really proper dungeons here. There's these outpost challenges where you fight waves of enemies into a final boss, but no actual location to run through, puzzles to solve, or scripted encounters. Just an arena with enemies. It's not something that stops me from enjoying the game, more like something I wish would be added. I feel like MMOs are doing away with dungeon-style designs in favor of just giving you a boss to fight, but I really like exploring areas and having to deal with other mobs and encounters along the way. The outpost challenges are still fun, and like all the other group content, provides a decent amount of gear. So far, gearing has been mostly straightforward, with some interesting twists. Higher level gear grants you an increased item level, called Mastery. However, your Mastery is also influenced by other factors, like the amount of mystic arts and passives you have equipped, and your gear's enhancement level. Gear enhancement is a system where you dump in-game currency and materials to a specific gear slot to level it up and give permanent bonus attributes. I think it's great that these bonuses are tied to your character over the specific gear piece. It skips over a layer of tedium of having to re-upgrade every new piece of gear required. I played Lost Ark around when it got localized in the West, and I quit early in the endgame because I hated having to farm 3,000 fucking gems to upgrade the new weapon I got to make it usable. So I'm glad I can enjoy an account-wide progression system. The materials required for any of my upgrades weren't particularly hard to come by either. There were a lot that were given to me in the story, but they could also be sourced through normal gameplay, whether it's gathered through the open world or rewarded through structured encounters. Usually, in games like this, the upgrades are easy to blitz through up until about when the campaign ends. Then, after that, your upgrades are scarce through normal gameplay, forcing players to either grind for ages for upgrades, or circumvent that grind by paying real money for higher drop rates, level upgrades, or anything that really alleviates it. That level of egregious pay to win drives me away from games, and was a big, but not the only, reason why I stopped playing Throne and Liberty. I feel like creating an artificial grind just to sell you a solution to it devalues the time that I spend in-game, and forces a dynamic of continue to do menial work, or pay up to stay relevant. Where Winds Meet doesn't do this. Now, while I don't know how stingy the game will be with upgrade materials at the endgame, I checked around the cash shop, and it looks like everything here is cosmetic only. This is one of my biggest reassurances for the game, as the absence of premium progression systems makes me encouraged to play the game more. It feels more like an end or stabilizing point to the grind is in sight. The last thing I want to talk about is this game's monetization. You have a standard cash shop, a battle pass with a free tier and 2 paid tiers, and multiple gacha-style pull events. Just about everything offered from these systems are cosmetic only. The few things that are gameplay items come from the common rewards of the gacha pulls, and they're honestly such trash tier rewards in comparison that I'd be questioning your intelligence if you told me you bought pulls for these. Generally, I'm fine with cosmetic cash shops, but I do have a problem with how insanely priced the cosmetics are and how scummy the pricing feels. For starters, the items have weird prices that don't cleanly match up with the quantities of premium currencies you could buy, meaning you'll always have an inconvenient amount left over after buying something. It's a common tactic used in games to keep people spending money in the store. On top of that, the skins themselves range in price from $15 to $50 a pop. And of course, no matter what skin you get, you need to buy the amount of premium currency slightly above what the cost of the item is. Then, you're left over with some fuck off amount of currency that can't be used anywhere. Unless you buy some more. It's a sick cycle that unconsciously coerces people to keep spending money, and I hate that the game does this. I'm relieved a bit that its monetization is reserved for cosmetics, at least for now, but the pricing model and there not being a lot of great looking cosmetics from gameplay leaves me feeling let down. I play MMOs for group content and virtual Barbie, and to see one of those means of enjoyment be locked behind a shop that's so ridiculously expensive makes me sad. I hope future content adds cooler outfits to earn in-game, but if not, I always have the combat and bosses themselves to keep me hooked. My overall experience with Where Winds Meet has been positive so far, and I definitely recommend trying it out. The world has engaging side objectives and exploration, the combat is fast and fluid, and the social systems built in are sure to keep people interacting with each other for a long time. The transmog is lackluster unless you pay up, and while that's a huge letdown for me, I have to concede that there can be far worse methods of monetization. The game's free to play with no pay to win in the cash shop, and I think that's enough to at least try the game and see if you vibe with it. While the fashion probably won't keep me hooked, the gameplay and lack of pay to win will keep me coming back for the encounters alone. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below, and subscribe for more MMO yapping and game reviews. Next video will be another episode of Yapping About MMOs, so be sure to tune in next time. Until then though, stay safe.
Wow.